Judicial Four-Party Consultation, JVO. 2026 Press Conference. Prosecution again seeks suspended sentence for former Central Bank President Emsley Tromp. Central Committee meeting of Parliament regarding the Nature Policy Plan for St. Martin 2025-2029. Consumer prices continue to remain stable in the third quarter of 2025. From the island, St. Martin, this is SXM Daily News for January 16th, 2026. Judicial Four-Party Consultation, JVO, 2026 Press Conference. Opening remarks. Hi, the Minister of Justice, Natalie Tackling. Again, years ago, behavioral contained a strategic component. However, over time, that kind of watered down, and to just really us going through lists and long agendas with 5 or 10 minutes per agenda points that we've really made the real strong commitment not to say that we're going to add an extra day. We're going to sit down. We're going to discuss difficult topics with one another. We're going to have the space and the time to have strategic discussions. And yesterday, we saw that for actually 2 hours, we had a wonderful presentation. We spoke about undermining crime, about organized crime within the region.
One of the most important parts is the takeaway that we've recommitted to strategically talking to one another again. Years ago, the JVO contained a strategic component. However, over time, that kind of watered down into just really us going through lists and long agendas with 5 or 10 minutes per agenda point. And we've really made the real strong commitment now to say, no, we're going to add an extra day. We're going to sit down, we're going to discuss difficult topics with one another. We're going to have the space and the time to have strategic discussions. And yesterday we saw that for actually 2 hours, we had a wonderful presentation. We spoke about undermining crime, about organized crime within the region, how we can respond to those things as countries together, and that we also recognize that organized crime doesn't know borders and criminals work together. And likewise, we have to reaffirm and recommit to work together because vulnerabilities to my border or to a border in Curacao affect Aruba and vice versa, as Minister Dower said as well. So I think that we've made that commitment. Again, in September, we will be again having an extra day to have those strategic discussions. I think we already have a topic on the table when it comes to that. And of course, we're also looking at strategically as well, how do we contain costs? You know, those are things that, as the colleague said multiple times, the sky isn't the limit. So we also need to look at, you know, where can we take measures within our own countries as well to maintain the costs that we share together when it comes to certain commitments in the area of justice. So I think for me, those would be to add to that the more important takeaways.
Good morning, Minister Jacqueline Hoffman from the Daily Herald. Based on court cases in St. Martin, we have the impression that the series of robberies on jewelry stores that have baffled the people of St. Martin in the past months are related to gang crime, organized crime from gangs operating throughout the Caribbean. We have seen it a while ago with the gunning down of a Trinidadian rapper, what is the name, something Boss in Maho. 3 weeks before his rival was performing on the same stage. These people come into the country. How are the islands, each of the islands, making sure that gang lords cannot enter and travel free from one island to the other?
I think those are exactly assessments that we're making currently in discussions that we did have over the past couple of days as well. And partially also the discussion that we had yesterday on a strategic level, looking at every country actually has something called a CBA, criminaliteitsbeeldanalyse. So we look at what the highest risks are in the individual countries, and what we're working on in the coming months as well is to tie all of those in together so that we have an insular analysis as well as all the different islands. And besides that, what we had yesterday was looking at how does the region and everything around us impact what we are seeing here, to help us prepare for those dangers as well. So we are having those discussions, and from the St. Martin point of view, we continue to work very closely with our CARICOM partners and exchange intelligence and information in order to stop these things from happening. Besides that, we of course have larger discussions ongoing in terms of looking how established platforms can contribute more to these bigger problems if we can show indeed that they are cross-border issues. Can we escalate those, run a couple big cases, get extra capacity? So those are, again, commitments that we've made and that we will continue to explore over the various platforms.
Consideration the fact that in your opening remarks, Minister, you spoke of the geopolitical tension within our region, especially the impact of what is happening in Venezuela and the United States. We might see an influx of persons coming to our shores, albeit Curacao, St. Martin, or Aruba. How do you jointly intend to deal with that situation if it arises?
Regarding the influx of foreigners coming to the border, we are working together. In this case, in Kingdom Broad, in assessing the risk that we're facing, and it's an ongoing risk. It's not something new. However, the tensions that arose the last weeks have brought much more attention to the situation. But we are monitoring the situation, and we have plans in place to deal with certain scenarios. At this moment, I can inform you that we are not seeing anything different than what we've been seeing the last few weeks. So at this moment, there's no reason for panic in Aruba. At least I can speak for Aruba. And but we will continue monitoring the situation, and if it's necessary, we will activate all the facilities and all the services we have to protect the borders to start with it, and if it's necessary to give services if that's necessary. However, we are not seeing any major changes in the situation regarding migration in the region at the moment.
Reporter asks the Prime Minister, I'm going to stay with the topic on NVGEBE. We actually didn't have a couple of members from the executive management of NVGEBE come into the radio station for an interview, and some interesting discussions and points came out of it. In particular, new generators have been purchased for St. Martin with money donated by someone. They explained that the process is actually happening from your office where the purchase is being made. Contracting of those generators is not being handled by NVGEBE, but it's actually falling within your review. Can you explain what the update is, and have the generators been purchased? What's the timeline look like online? For a good understanding, I think we have to go back in time.
For the good understanding, I think we have to go back in time. In the time that we had this national energy crisis, it's important to know that we realized that we had actually obsolete engines working with a lifetime span over the 25 to 28 years. So for myself, being the Prime Minister recently in office, I was very surprised to realize that my country was being carried with generators above the 28 years of age. And realizing the national crisis that we were encountering at that particular moment, considering the crisis situation, bringing the safety and security of the country in a very vulnerable area, I decided actually to take active action. And after consulting with the GEBE, I proposed to GB first to see if they could actually purchase new generators. And we realized at that particular moment that GEBE did not have the financial resources at that moment to take such a decision on their own. And then they came back to me and they requested me if it was possible for me to approach the government of the Netherlands to see if I could get a loan. And that initiative I took, and I approached the state secretary that time, that was Mr. Zoltz-Sabot. I explained him that we are at this particular moment in a very dangerous situation with blackouts and at this particular moment. So I said to him, it is unacceptable for a country not to have energy. And if he could help me with a loan for me to be able to purchase generators for the country. And As you know, that went very fast, and in a week time, actually, I had the approval of 42 million US dollars to purchase generators, and I got that loan at an interest rate of 2.43 interest rate. Okay, now the next step is how are we going to proceed with the purchasing following procurements to actually purchase the generators. The first thing I did was I installed a energy committee, crisis committee, that would guide me in the approach of requesting that loan. And actually, once I have it now, I have still this committee at place that is advising and negotiating with GEBE to see, for example, how we can get to agreements concerning the RFP, for example, the request for proposal. How are these things going to be formatted in a way that we have a responsible, transparent and accountable way of dealing with the purchase procurement of the generators, because at the end of the day, it's a huge, significant amount of money that we are talking about. This committee is now busy with the RFP, and I think now I'm aware and informed that we are now so far that there is an agreement on the RFP, and at this particular moment, the Energy Committee is busy actually formalizing the last details for the purchasing to order the generators, and that is the phase that we are in. There is a second phase also that we have to go and make sure that there is a legal framework to organize this, is to see, okay, the government, it's government's money, we took the loan, and we are helping out GEBE. So we will have to have the legal framework in what conditions now we are going to set out now a loan to GEBE, or in which agreements is GEBE going to proceed with actually doing business with generators that has been paid by government. So those legal details are at this particular moment also being formalized for us to be able to do it in, as I said, a transparent and accountable way to St. Martin, the people of St. Martin.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Just for clarity, so the public understands, RFP is a request for proposal.
Yes.
So, and that is what the companies will bid on when proposing to sell the generators.
Yes.
And so far, the request for proposal or RFP has not yet been completed or sent out yet, just for clarity.
No,
it's being
yet,
finalized,
right.
but
Yes,
not yet
yes.
sent out.
The phase of almost being finalized. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Once again, Curaçao's political leadership appears eager to claim credit for developments that have little to do with local policy, vision, or diplomatic skill. The recent narrative surrounding renewed tanker activity at Bulan is a textbook example of what many on the island increasingly recognize as political window dressing rather than honest governance. According to official messaging, the return of oil tankers is being framed as a success story of foresight, strategy, and diplomacy, with Prime Minister Gilmar Pisas implicitly and at times explicitly portrayed as a central actor. That portrayal does not withstand even minimal scrutiny. The reality is far less flattering. The renewed activity in Bulan is the direct result of shifting geopolitical forces far beyond Willemstad's influence. A dramatic recalibration of U.S. policy toward Venezuela, changing sanction regimes, and international energy market dynamics. Curaçao is not steering this ship. It is riding the waves created elsewhere. There is nothing wrong with benefiting from global developments. Small jurisdictions like Curaçao inevitably do. What is problematic is the political reflex to present coincidence as competence and circumstance as accomplishment. When leaders act as if they personally engineered outcomes shaped in Washington, Caracas, and global commodity markets, they insult the intelligence of the public. The Open Bar Ministeri has once again requested a 6-month prison sentence, fully suspended, against former president of the Central Bank of Curaçao and Sint Maarten, Emslie Tromp. This time, however, the prosecution is no longer basing its demand on allegations of fraud, but on Tromp's alleged complicity in irregularities surrounding a USD 400,000 bank guarantee. The sentencing request was presented on Thursday afternoon during appeal proceedings, effectively mirroring the penalty imposed in the first instance, albeit under a different legal qualification. While the lower court previously concluded that Tromp had engaged in fraudulent conduct, the prosecution now argues that he acted as an accomplice to offences attributed to his former colleague at the central bank, René Lorenz, who has already been convicted of corruption. Questionable guarantee arrangement. The case centers on the financing of a purported clothing business. According to prosecutors, Lorenz arranged a USD 400,000 bank guarantee with Banco de Caribe, allegedly to support a business venture for a woman described as a friend of Tromp. The prosecution considers it highly unusual that shortly after the guarantee was approved, Lorenz instructed the bank to transfer the funds to a personal account belonging to Tromp, even though no business account had yet been established. The money was deposited into an account named E.T. Pensionen. Investigators concluded that the funds were not used to set up the alleged business. Instead, part of the amount was transferred to an investment account, while another portion was reportedly used to pay Tromp's personal credit card debts. Statements and findings. During the investigation, the woman for whom the business was allegedly created stated that she played no role in establishing the company and was not involved in the bank guarantee. She did confirm, however, that Tromp had paid off part of her personal debts. According to the prosecution, the evidence shows that Lorenz arranged the guarantee and that Tromp benefited financially from it. On that basis, prosecutors consider Lorenz criminally liable as the main actor and Tromp as an accomplice. Taking into account the circumstances of the case and the assessment made by the lower court, the prosecution maintains that a fully suspended 6-month prison sentence is appropriate. The Court of Appeal is scheduled to deliver its ruling on February the 26th.
Are you SXM insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXM is cardless. Request your My SXM account today and enter the virtual office of SXM. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
SXM, yeah. Your social health insurances.
The Ministry of Justice has officially launched the construction of the new Pointe Blanche prison, marking a major milestone within the detention sector reform program and a decisive step towards strengthening Sint Maarten's justice system and improving detention conditions. The construction project, implemented by the United Nations Office for Project Services, UNOPS, forms part of the broader detention sector reform program led by the Ministry of Justice. It represents a joint investment of USD 52 million from the Government of Sint Maarten and the Ministry of the Interior and Kingdom Relations of the Netherlands. The new facility will be modern, resilient, and sustainable. It is designed to meet the highest international standards and ensure safe, humane, and dignified conditions for prison staff and those incarcerated. Minister of Justice Natalie Tackling underscored the significance of the moment. This groundbreaking marks a long-awaited turning point in the reform of Sint Maarten's detention system. It speaks to our responsibility to the people who live, work within, and are affected by that system every day, our prison staff, our inmates, and the wider community. The launch of the construction of the new Point Blanche prison reflects our commitment to safety, dignity, and rehabilitation. This facility represents a future built on fair second chances, stronger institutions, and detention conditions that uphold international standards, ensuring justice is served with humanity, integrity, and purpose. The new prison will cover approximately 10,000 square meters and feature a 4-story main building, more than doubling the country's current detention capacity with space for up to 196 inmates. The design includes healthcare facilities, a basic mental health unit, family visitation areas, indoor and outdoor recreational spaces, workshops, and classrooms for vocational training, such as carpentry, welding, and mechanics. These components support a rehabilitation-centered approach aligned with international detention standards, incorporating social, gender, environmental, and sustainability considerations. While today's focus is on the groundbreaking of the infrastructure, the Ministry of Justice and its partners continue to advance other key pillars of the detention sector reform program. The reform has never been about infrastructure alone. The soft components, including staff training, leadership development, rehabilitation programming, education, mental health support, and reintegration initiatives, are already underway. These efforts ensure that meaningful change within the detention system does not wait for the completion of a new facility, and remain just as essential as what is being built today. Central Committee meeting of Parliament regarding the Nature Policy Plan for Sint Maarten 2025-2029. The House of Parliament will sit in a Central Committee meeting on January 16, 2026.
So we're here, of course, today to discuss the Nature Policy Plan 2025-2030, and of course, it's the updated Nature Policy Plan for Sint Maarten. To begin for the agenda of today, I will go over the background of the Nature Policy Plan and the different national and international requirements for this document. Then we will briefly discuss the previous Nature Policy Plan for 2021-2025 before going into the updated Nature Policy Plan 2025 to 2030, then lastly closing off with the next steps. So a brief background. The national requirement for a Nature Policy Plan comes from Article 2 of the National Ordinance on the Foundation of Nature Management and Protection, Landsverordening, Grondslagen, Natuurbeheer en Bescherming. This ordinance further puts forward the requirement for a nature plan in its Article 9. The Nature Policy Plan essentially serves as a general framework for nature policy and management for the coming 5 years. And the Nature Plan functions as the implementation plan containing an overview of the tangible actions to be realized in the planning period, as well as the term within which this will take place. So, of course, we have the Dutch original version of Article 2 of the National Ordinance on the Foundations of Nature Management and Protection. It clearly states that once every 5 years, the Minister of Rummy will establish a national nature policy plan, which also implements the international obligations entered into in this regard. It also states the nature policy plan requires the approval, goedkeuring of the Staten, the Parliament. Firstly, it should be noted, though, that this approval is goedkeuring and not vaststelling establishment. From our understanding, this may be an error in the law that was incorrectly carried over post-10-10-10. In the time of the Netherlands Antilles, the legislation was quite strict and placed a lot of responsibility on the island councils, which is at that time functioned as a parliament, almost. It is understood that this was done at a time to prevent the local executive councils to take extreme or undesirable decisions and remain a bit more in control as the central government. With the dissolution of the Netherlands Antilles, each island has translated this requirement differently. We will soon start an assignment to review and update this national ordinance on the foundation of nature management and protection, and we will include a review and revision of the article in this process. Here is the original Dutch version of Article 9 of the National Ordinance on the Foundations of Nature Management and Protection. Now, we go very briefly over into international requirements. This national requirement for a nature policy plan originates from an international requirement originating from the International United Nations Convention on Biological Biodiversity, or CBD. The Kingdom of the Netherlands is a party to this convention since 1994, and Sint Maarten has been party to it since 1999 as the Netherlands Antilles. Parties to the CBD are called on to create National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plans, or NBSAPs. This is a national policy which aims at providing strategic direction at a national level on the management and protection of biodiversity. So our National Nature Policy Plan is our NBSAP. To help countries structure the NBSAPs, every decade, the CBD ratifies a new set of targets outlining the global goals to achieve regarding the natural environment in the planning period. Essentially, it could be considered the SDGs for the natural environment. From 2010 to 2020, these were the Acai biodiversity targets. The follow-up to this, called the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework, or GBF, which was approved in December 2022 at the CBD COP15 following the COVID-19 pandemic and ongoing negotiations.
Sint Maarten, the Department of Statistics, STAT, reports a modest shift in consumer prices between the second and third quarters of 2025. The Consumer Price Index, CPI, for the third quarter, Q3 of 2025, registered at 115.09, reflecting a 0.76% increase compared to Q2 2025, CPI 114.23. When comparing Q3 2025, 115.09, to the same period in 2024, 113.82, an annual increase of 1.12% is observed. In addition, the average CPI across the first three quarters of 2025 shows a moderate increase of 1.09% when compared to the same period in 2024. These results indicate an overall environment of price stability, despite fluctuations across specific expenditure categories. Quarter 3. Overview. Q3 2025 chose Q2 2025. In Q3 2025, the CPI inflation increased by 0.76% compared to the previous quarter. The CPI shows that movements across the four key expenditure categories were as follows. Housing, water, and energy decreased by 0.53%, primarily due to declines in electricity. Transport rose by 3.97%, driven by increases in fuels and lubricants for personal transport. Miscellaneous goods and services recorded a modest 2.26% increase, impacted by higher costs in social protection. Food and non-alcoholic beverages increased by 0.10%, with contributions from minor increases in vegetables. Quarter 3 Overview. Q3 2025 to Q3 2024. In Q3 2025, the CPI inflation increased by 1.12% compared to the same quarter of 2024. The CPI shows that movements across four key expenditure categories were as follows. Housing, water and energy decreased by 0.29%, primarily due to declines in electricity, gas and other fuels, water tariffs, and maintenance and repair of the dwelling, which collectively contributed to the overall reduction in this category. Transport rose by 5.43%, driven mainly by increases in transport services, strongly influenced by higher prices in passenger transport by air. Miscellaneous goods and services recorded a moderate 3.80% increase, reflecting upward movements in life insurance. Food and non-alcoholic beverages increased by 2.31%, with notable price pressures observed in meat products. The category increases in Q3 supported a mild rise in the overall CPI for this period.
Now for the weather forecast, tonight through Saturday evening. Partly cloudy and breezy, becoming cloudy at times with isolated showers. Surface winds. Tonight through Saturday evening, east-northeasterly to easterly with a moderate to fresh breeze at 13 to 20 mph, and occasional higher gusts up to 30 mph. State of the sea. Slight to moderate waves, swells, 4 to 7 feet outlook through Sunday evening. Partly cloudy and breezy with brief showers likely. And now your 3-day forecast.
Your social and health insurance is your social and health insurances.
Are you SXV insured? Do you have a valid medical insurance status? SXV is cardless. Request your My SXV account today and enter the virtual office of SXV. Go to sxv.sx and sign up now.
Your social and health insurances.
According to Merchant, the data show a steady decline in confirmed dengue cases over the past several years, with no cases recorded so far for 2026. In 2022, there were 2 cases of dengue recorded. In 2023, there was a spike of 106 cases. That fell in 2024 to 18 cases. In 2025, 11 cases were recorded. And so far for this year, there are no cases that have been recorded, he said. Merchant added that other mosquito-borne illnesses, including Zika, chikungunya, Oropouche fever, and yellow fever, have also remained at low or zero levels in recent years. For Zika virus, only 2 confirmed cases last year, no confirmed cases in 2022, 2023, 2024, or so far for this year, Merchant said. As it relates to chikungunya, Oropouche fever, and yellow fever, 0 laboratory-confirmed cases reported from 2020 to so far this year. He said Cabinet concluded that the figures confirm arboviral activity remains low and controlled, with no indication of sustained transmission or outbreak conditions. Merchant said the Ministry of Health's surveillance systems remain fully active to ensure early detection and a rapid response should disease patterns change. The public will be promptly informed if surveillance data indicate any increase in risk, he said, while reassuring residents that there is no cause for alarm. Merchant noted that the ministry continues to encourage routine mosquito control measures, including eliminating standing water and using personal protection. Prime Minister Kamla Persad Bissessar today delivered the government's legislative agenda in Parliament, outlining the administration's law-making priorities and policy direction for the period ahead.
Today we move to 3 pieces more. So from the 13, these 3 after today would be hopefully passed in this Honourable House. And those 3 include the Motor Vehicles and Road Traffic Amendment Bill 2026, the Law Reform Zones of Special Operations, Special Security and Community Development Measures Bill 26, and the Tobago House of Assembly Amendment Bill 2026 to be debated today. So these, I'm saying, are already delivered and those to come. But let me share with you now some of our proposals in the coming months. We will continue to meet our promises through our legislative agenda here and in the other place. We have promised greater autonomy to the people of Tobago. And today is a first step in that direction as we bring the THA Amendment Bill to this House. We want to congratulate the people of Tobago on making their total and outright rejection of the PNM previously declared. We congratulate Chief Secretary Farley Augustine and his party and his team for their landslide victory in Tobago. And of course, his swearing-in yesterday, which we were very honored to attend. We say to our sisters and brothers in Tobago, we shall complete that which has gathered dust for the past 10 years. My government is committed to enacting legislation to entrench the position of Tobago as an equal autonomous partner of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. To that end, we shall move expeditiously to analyze the provisions of legislation drafted previously and in consultation with the Honourable Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, we'll move to draft an efficient law which clearly establishes Tobago's place in the sun as an equal partner in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, side by side, side by side. We will work with the THA and their teams to bring to this Parliament, after consultations, the Constitution Amendment Bill 2026 and the Tobago Self-Government Bill 2026 to this Parliament in this fiscal year. We will bring those.
This is our SXM Daily Newscast. Thank you for joining us.